The marble floor was colder than I expected. I lay there, stunned, my arthritic knees screaming as 200 pairs of eyes stared down at me. My cane, the one James gave me on our 40th anniversary, hand-carved walnut with brass fittings, rolled away across the polished stone. Someone had kicked it. Hard. "Stop faking it!" Brooke's voice cut through the chapel like a knife. "You killed him for the $50 million. Before we continue, comment where you're watching from, and subscribe to the channel. We'd love to see how far our stories are reaching. I tried to push myself up, but my hands were shaking too badly. The fall had knocked the wind out of me. At 64, you don't bounce back from hitting marble. My right hip throbbed where it had connected with the floor. I could already feel the bruise forming. "Mom, just stay down." That was Dylan's voice, somewhere above me, not helping me up, just telling me to stay down, like I was a dog. I had spent 43 years married to James Sullivan, 43 years of packing his lunches, ironing his shirts, raising his son. I'd worked double shifts at Lutheran General when Dylan needed braces. I'd sold my mother's wedding ring to help James start his first business. And now, 4 months after burying my husband, I was lying on the floor of Holy Name Cathedral while my daughter-in-law accused me of murder. The thing about arthritis is that people think you're exaggerating. They see you walk into a room without your cane one day and assume you've been lying about needing it. What they don't see are the mornings you can't get out of bed without 20 minutes of stretching, the nights you sleep sitting up because lying flat makes your knees lock. Brooke knew this. She'd watched me struggle with pill bottles. She'd seen me grip the kitchen counter just to stand upright after loading the dishwasher, and she'd kicked my cane anyway. "Security should remove her," Brooke continued, her voice carrying to every corner of the chapel. She was wearing black Prada. I'd seen the price tag when she'd left it lying on my guest bed last month. $4,800 for a dress she'd wear once. She's been trying to control the estate. She forged documents. James told me he was afraid of her. That was a lie. James had never been afraid of anyone in his life, least of all me. I managed to get to my knees. The chapel floor was unforgiving. My right stocking had torn, and I could feel blood trickling down my shin. Dylan stood 3 feet away, his hands in his pockets, looking at the floor. Not at me. At the floor. "Dylan." My voice came out hoarse. "Help me up." He didn't move. Monsignor Patterson stepped forward instead, his weathered face creased with concern. He'd married James and me in this same chapel in 1981. "Mrs. Sullivan, let me help you." "Don't touch her, Father," Brooke snapped. "She's dangerous. She needs psychiatric evaluation." Dylan's already filed the paperwork with his attorney. That's when I saw him. The Faxinero, the man Brooke had hired 3 months ago to handle the grounds at our Lake Forest estate. Carlos something. He was standing near the side entrance, wearing the same navy work jacket he always wore. But there was something different about the way he was watching Brooke. Not like an employee, like someone taking notes. He moved through the crowd with quiet authority, and I noticed for the first time how he carried himself. Not like a day laborer, like someone used to giving orders. When he reached Brooke, he didn't ask permission. He simply pulled something from his jacket pocket, a leather wallet, and flipped it open. I was too far away to read it, but I saw Brooke's face change. The color drained from her cheeks. "Brooke Sullivan," Carlos said, his voice different now, harder, professional. "I'm investigator Carlos Mendez, Illinois State Police. I need you to come with me." "This is insane," Brooke said, but her voice had lost its edge. "I haven't done anything." Carlos glanced at me, still on my knees, blood running down my leg. Then he looked back at Brooke. When he spoke, every word landed like a hammer. "She didn't kill him. You did." The chapel went silent. Brooke opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. What are you?" "You have the right to remain silent," Carlos continued, pulling handcuffs from his belt. "I suggest you use it." Dylan finally moved. "Wait, Carlos, what the hell is this? You work for us. You're the—" "I don't work for you," Carlos said flatly. "I've been working with the Cook County State's attorney for the past 8 months. He snapped the first cuff onto Brooke's wrist. She didn't resist. She just stood there, frozen, her mouth slightly open. I stayed on my knees, watching. My hip ached. My shin was still bleeding, but for the first time in 4 months I could breathe. Monsignor Patterson knelt beside me. "Emma, let's get you to a chair." As he helped me up, I kept my eyes on Carlos. He was speaking quietly to another man now, someone in a dark suit who'd appeared from nowhere. The man nodded and moved toward Dylan, who looked like he'd been hit by a truck. My sister-in-law Diane pushed through the crowd, her face fierce. "About damn time," she muttered, wrapping an arm around my waist to steady me. She'd been the one who'd insisted something was wrong. She'd been the one who'd hired Carlos, though I hadn't known that until this moment. "Did you know?" I asked her. "Not everything," she admitted, but enough to know she was lying. Carlos finished with Brooke and turned to address the crowd. "James Sullivan's death is now being investigated as a homicide. Anyone with information is asked to contact the state's attorney's office." Someone gasped. Several people pulled out their phones. Brooke found her voice. Dylan, tell them this is crazy. Tell them I loved your father." But Dylan was staring at Carlos. "Homicide? My father had a heart attack. We saw the death certificate." "Death certificates can be falsified," Carlos said, "especially when the attending physician is being paid to look the other way." He gestured to his partner. "We'll need statements from everyone present at the time of death. Starting with you, Mr. Sullivan." I let Diane guide me to a pew. My legs were shaking so badly I couldn't stand anymore. As I sat down, I looked at the stained glass window above the altar. St. Michael, sword raised, defeating the serpent. James had always loved that window. I pressed my hand against my bleeding shin and wondered how many lies I'd believed. How many times I'd made excuses for Brooke. How many nights I'd told myself that my son's wife was just young and ambitious, not dangerous. Carlos caught my eye across the chapel. He gave me the smallest nod. Then he led Brooke Sullivan toward the door, her handcuffs glinting under the cathedral lights. The hospital discharged me with painkillers and a prescription I couldn't afford to fill. Diane drove me home, not to the Lake Forest estate where James and I had lived for 30 years, but to her townhouse in Evanston. The estate was technically mine according to the will, but Brooke's lawyers had filed an emergency motion claiming I was mentally unstable and a danger to the property. "They can't keep you out forever," Diane said as we pulled into her driveway. "Carlos said the injunction is temporary." I didn't answer. My hip throbbed with every breath. The ER doctor had confirmed no fractures, but deep tissue bruising took months to heal. At my age, months felt like forever. Inside, Diane's living room was smaller than my bedroom at the estate. She'd set up the pull-out couch with fresh sheets. A glass of water and my pain medication sat on the side table, next to a new cane. Aluminum, adjustable, nothing like the one Brooke had broken. "Dylan called 4 times while you were being examined," Diane said, hanging up our coats. I didn't answer. What did he want? He left voicemails. She pulled out her phone and handed it to me. "You should listen." I pressed play on the first message. "Mom, it's me. Look, I know today was confusing, but Brooke's lawyers are saying there's been a misunderstanding. They have evidence that Carlos Mendez isn't even a real investigator. He's a private detective Aunt Diane hired to harass Brooke. We need to talk. Please call me back." The second message was longer. "Mom, Brooke made bail. Her attorney is Leonard Whitmore. He's one of the best criminal defense lawyers in Illinois. He's looking into Carlos's background, and apparently, there are some serious questions about his credentials. Also, the state's attorney hasn't officially charged Brooke with anything yet. They're just questioning her." "Mom, I think Aunt Diane has been feeding you false information. Dad's death was natural. You know that. Please, just come home so we can sort this out." I deleted both messages without listening to the other two. "He doesn't believe it," I said quietly. Diane took her phone back. "He will. Give him time." But time was the one thing I was running out of. The next morning, I woke to my phone ringing. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. 2 minutes later, it rang again. Same number. On the third call, I answered. "Mrs. Sullivan?" A woman's voice, professional but cold. "This is Jennifer Park from Whitmore and Associates. I'm calling on behalf of our client, Brooke Sullivan. We're prepared to offer you a settlement." I sat up too quickly. Pain shot through my hip. "A settlement?" $1 million, tax-free, in exchange for a signed statement confirming that James Sullivan died of natural causes and that you have no reason to believe Mrs. Brooke Sullivan was involved in his death in any way. I pressed the phone harder against my ear. You're offering me money to lie. We're offering you financial security, Mrs. Sullivan. We understand you're living with your sister-in-law currently, that your arthritis medication costs approximately $800 per month, that your late husband's estate is frozen pending investigation, which means you have no access to funds. My hands were shaking. How do you know what my medication costs? We've done our research. You have until Friday at 5 p.m. to accept. After that, the offer is withdrawn, and we proceed with our countersuit. Countersuit? Defamation, Mrs. Sullivan. Emotional distress. Conspiracy to commit fraud. We're seeking $5 million in damages. Jennifer Park's voice didn't change tone. She could have been ordering coffee. You don't have $5 million, but we can attach your Social Security benefits, your late husband's pension, any future inheritance. We can make sure you spend your remaining years in debt. The line went dead. I sat on Diane's pull-out couch, staring at my phone. Outside, garbage trucks rumbled past. Someone's dog barked. Normal morning sounds in a normal neighborhood. Everything in my life had stopped being normal 4 months ago when James collapsed in our kitchen. I'd been making his coffee. French press the way he liked it. He'd been reading the Tribune at the breakfast table, complaining about property taxes. Then he'd made a small sound. Not quite a gasp, just a surprised, "Oh," and slumped forward. By the time the paramedics arrived, he was gone. Massive heart attack, the ER doctor said. Common in men his age. Nothing anyone could have done. Brooke had been at the gym. Dylan had been in surgery at Northwestern. I'd ridden alone in the ambulance, holding James's hand, talking to him even though I knew he couldn't hear me anymore. At the hospital, Brooke had arrived in her workout clothes, mascara running, sobbing into Dylan's shoulder. I should have been there, she'd kept saying. I should have been there. I'd believed her grief was real. Carlos showed up at Diane's townhouse that afternoon. He was wearing jeans and a flannel shirt instead of his work jacket. Without the groundskeeper costume, he looked different, older, more serious. "Can I come in?" he asked. Diane made coffee while Carlos sat across from me at her kitchen table. He pulled out a manila folder and set it between us. "Brooke's lawyers contacted you," he said. Not a question. "How did you know?" "Because that's what they do. Whitmore is expensive, which means Brooke has access to serious money. Money she shouldn't have, considering her fitness influencer career brings in maybe $40,000 a year." I opened the folder. Inside were bank statements, wire transfers, screenshots of text messages, all time-stamped, all annotated with yellow highlighting. "This is from Brooke's personal accounts," Carlos said. "Notice the deposits starting 8 months before James died. $5,000 here, $8,000 there, always in cash, always noted as consulting fees. Consulting for what? That's what we're trying to determine. But look at this." He pulled out a printed email. "This is from Brooke to a company called Apex Wellness Solutions. She's ordering supplements, large quantities, things like yohimbine, ephedra, bitter orange extract. I don't understand. They're all stimulants. Individually, they're legal. Combined, in high enough doses, they can trigger cardiac events, especially in someone with an undiagnosed heart condition." My mouth went dry. James didn't have a heart condition. According to his doctor, no. But that's the thing about these substances. They work on anyone if you give them enough. And if you give them slowly, over time, they build up in the system. By the time symptoms appear, it looks like natural causes. Diane set coffee cups in front of us. Her hand was shaking slightly. "You're saying Brooke poisoned James. I'm saying the medical examiner is exhuming James's body next week. If we find traces of these substances in his tissue samples, combined with the financial motive and the documentary evidence, we have a case." I couldn't look at the folder anymore. I pushed it back toward Carlos. "Dylan doesn't believe any of this. He thinks you're a fraud. Dylan is married to a woman who stood to inherit $50 million. Of course he doesn't want to believe it." Carlos took a sip of coffee. "But he's going to have to choose. And soon." "Brooke's lawyers offered me money," I said. $1 million to sign a statement saying James died naturally. Did you take it?" "No. Good. Because the moment you sign that, you become an accessory. And they know it. Carlos closed the folder. Emma, these people are not playing games. Brooke has already tried to have you declared mentally incompetent. Whitmore filed the petition yesterday. The hearing is next Wednesday. I felt the room tilt. On what grounds? They're claiming you have dementia, that you've been experiencing memory loss, paranoid delusions, inability to manage daily tasks. They have a psychiatrist prepared to testify. Someone Brooke paid $15,000 for an evaluation you never sat for. Diane slammed her coffee cup down. That's fraud. Yes, but it'll take months to prove. In the meantime, if the judge grants the petition, Brooke and Dylan get control of the estate, and you get nothing. I looked at Carlos, this man who'd spent 8 months pretending to trim hedges and rake leaves. Why are you helping me? He was quiet for a moment. Your sister-in-law hired me because she had a bad feeling. That's not usually enough to build a case. But when I started watching Brooke, I saw patterns. The way she isolated James from his friends, the way she controlled his schedule, the way she made sure she was always the one preparing his vitamins, his protein shakes, his coffee, I said quietly. Carlos nodded. His coffee, always French press, always made by her those last 3 months. I remembered. Brooke had insisted on taking over breakfast duties, said she wanted to help out, give me a break. James had been pleased. He'd said Brooke was finally acting like family. What do I do? I asked. Carlos leaned forward. You fight. You let me finish the investigation. You trust that the truth will come out. He paused. And you stay away from Dylan until this is over. He's my son. He's married to a woman who killed his father, and until he accepts that, he's not safe to be around. That night, I couldn't sleep. My hip hurt too much to lie flat, and the painkillers made me dizzy. I sat in Diane's kitchen with a heating pad and scrolled through photos on my phone. James at Dylan's medical school graduation. James teaching Dylan to fish. James walking Dylan down the aisle at his wedding to Brooke. In every photo, James was smiling. I stopped on one from 6 months before he died, a family dinner at the estate. Brooke had insisted on taking the picture. James sat at the head of the table, looking thinner than I remembered. His face was slightly gray. I'd thought he was just tired. I zoomed in on the photo. On the table in front of him was his coffee mug, the blue ceramic one Brooke always used for his French press. My phone buzzed. Text from Dylan. Mom, please call me. Brooke is scared. This is all a huge mistake. We need to talk before her lawyers do something we all regret. I turned off my phone and sat in the dark, listening to the heating pad hum. Outside, a car door slammed. Footsteps on the sidewalk. Then silence. The competency hearing was scheduled for 9 a.m., Wednesday at the Cook County Courthouse. I wore the navy dress from James's memorial. It was the only formal clothing I had at Diane's townhouse. Everything else was locked inside the Lake Forest estate. My closet, my photos, 43 years of marriage stored in rooms I couldn't access. Diane drove. Neither of us spoke much. Carlos had prepared me for what to expect. Brooke's psychiatrist would testify I showed signs of dementia. Dylan would likely be called as a witness. The judge would ask me questions designed to test my memory, my reasoning, my ability to manage basic tasks. Don't get defensive, Carlos had warned. Don't get emotional. Just answer clearly and honestly. But when we arrived at the courthouse, Carlos was waiting outside with news that changed everything. Hearing's been postponed, he said. Whitmore filed for a continuance, claims they need more time to gather medical evidence. That's good, right? Diane asked. Carlos shook his head. It's a stalling tactic. They're waiting for something. I don't know what yet. We stood on the courthouse steps as lawyers and defendants flowed around us. I watched a young woman in handcuffs being led inside, her public defender trailing behind with a worn briefcase. What do I do now? I asked. Go home. Stay low. Let me work. Carlos handed me a burner phone. Use this if you need to reach me. Don't use your regular phone for anything sensitive. I looked at the cheap flip phone in my hand. You think they're listening? I think Brooke has $50 million reasons to know everything you're doing. Back at Diane's townhouse, I tried calling Dylan. The call went straight to voicemail. I tried texting from my regular phone. No response. At 2 p.m., I called Northwestern Memorial and asked for Dr. Dylan Sullivan's office. His secretary answered on the second ring. "I'm sorry, but Dr. Sullivan is on medical leave," she said. "I can transfer you to Dr. Patterson if this is regarding a patient." Medical leave? Since when? I'm not at liberty to discuss Dr. Sullivan's personal matters. Can I help you with something else? I hung up. Dylan had been an orthopedic surgeon for 12 years. He'd never taken medical leave. Not when he had the flu. Not when he broke his wrist skiing. Not ever. I tried his cell again. Voicemail. Then I tried his house phone. The landline at the Lake Forest estate. Brooke answered on the third ring. Emma. Her voice was cold. Professional. "Dylan doesn't want to talk to you right now. Where is he? He's resting. The stress of your false accusations has taken a toll on his health. His therapist recommended time away from toxic family members." I gripped the phone tighter. "Let me talk to my son." No. The word was flat. Final. Dylan has made his choice. He's protecting his family, which means protecting himself from your delusions. I'm not delusional. The psychiatric evaluation says otherwise. Dr. Reinhardt was very thorough in his assessment. I never met Dr. Reinhardt. That's not what the paperwork says. I could hear the smile in her voice. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a call with Leonard. We're discussing the defamation suit. I believe we're adding Diane to the list of defendants. Something about conspiracy to harass. The line went dead. I sat on Diane's couch, holding the silent phone. Outside, children were playing in the street. Someone was grilling. The smell of charcoal and lighter fluid drifted through the window. Normal life, continuing without me. That night, I couldn't sleep. My hip ached. The heating pad had stopped working. I lay in the dark, listening to Diane's refrigerator hum, and thought about the last time I'd seen my granddaughter. Sophia was 7. She had James's eyes, bright blue, always asking questions. Before James died, she'd spent every Saturday at our house. We'd bake cookies, do puzzles, read books in the library. After the funeral, Brooke had cut off contact. "Too confusing for Sophia," she'd explained. "She needs stability right now, not reminders of death." I hadn't seen Sophia in 4 months. At 3 a.m., I got up and went to Diane's home office. She'd left her laptop open on the desk. I typed Brooke Sullivan into Google. The first results were her Instagram account. 212,000 followers. Photos of her in workout clothes, promoting supplements and protein powders. Sponsored posts for activewear brands. Videos of her doing yoga poses on beaches. I scrolled back through her posts. Back to before she married Dylan. Back to when she was just another fitness influencer trying to build a brand. There was a pattern I hadn't noticed before. Every 6 months, she'd post about a new mentor or business partner. Always older men, always wealthy, based on the backgrounds of the photos. Expensive homes, luxury cars, yacht clubs. One man appeared frequently in photos from 2019. Harrison Chen, silver hair, expensive watch, standing next to Brooke at what looked like a charity gala. I searched Harrison Chen Chicago. The first result was an obituary from 2020. Harrison Chen, 68, passed away unexpectedly on March 15, 2020, at his home in Winnetka. He is survived by his wife Margaret and 2 sons. I clicked through to the full obituary. Services will be held at. Then I searched Harrison Chen death cause. Nothing came up. No news articles, no police reports. Just the obituary and a few memorial posts on Facebook. I went back to Brooke's Instagram. The photos with Harrison Chen stopped in February 2020, 1 month before he died. I kept searching. Another man, Robert Kelman, appeared in Brooke's photos from 2018. Real estate developer. Died in 2019 at age 71. A third man, Dennis Park, investment banker. Died in 2017 at age 65. 3 wealthy older men, all dead within 2 years of appearing in Brooke's social media. My hands were shaking as I screenshotted everything. At 7 a.m., I called Carlos on the burner phone. "I found something," I said. He arrived 30 minutes later with coffee and a yellow legal pad. I showed him everything. The Instagram posts, the obituaries, the pattern. Carlos took notes without speaking. When I finished, he sat back and exhaled slowly. "This changes things," he said. Can you investigate them? The other deaths? I can try. But Emma, these men died in different jurisdictions, different years. Getting those cases reopened will take months, maybe years. But it proves she's done this before. It suggests a pattern. That's not the same as proof. Carlos tapped his pen against the legal pad, but it might be enough to get the FBI involved. If this is a serial case, it becomes federal. How long will that take? Longer than we have. The exhumation results come back Friday. If they're inconclusive, the state's attorney might drop the case against Brooke. And if that happens, she walks. I looked at the screenshots on Diane's laptop. 3 men, all dead, all forgotten. What about their families? I asked. Did any of them suspect? I'll find out. But Emma, you need to be prepared for the possibility that even if we prove James was murdered, we might not be able to prove Brooke did it, not beyond reasonable doubt. Then what? Then you win the estate battle, but Brooke stays free. The thought made me sick. Wednesday afternoon, Diane had to work. I stayed at the townhouse alone, going through James's papers, the files I'd managed to grab before being locked out of the estate. Most of it was standard. Tax returns, investment statements, property deeds. Then I found a manila envelope I didn't recognize. No label, just tucked into the back of James's filing cabinet. Inside was a life insurance policy, Sullivan Family Trust. Primary beneficiary, Brooke Sullivan. Death benefit, $12,000. The signature date was May 15, 2024, 3 months before James died. I read it 3 times to make sure I wasn't imagining it. James and I had life insurance, but it was old. A $500,000 policy from the 1990s with me as the sole beneficiary. This was different. This was new. And the beneficiary was wrong. I grabbed the burner phone and called Carlos. I found another policy, $12 million. Brooke is the beneficiary. Silence on the other end. Carlos, when was it issued? May, 3 months before James died. And he never mentioned it to you. Never. More silence. Then, Emma, I need you to bring that policy to me. Right now. Don't let it out of your sight. Why? What does this mean? It means Brooke didn't just inherit through the estate. She got a direct payout. $12 million, tax-free, the moment James died. Carlos's voice was tight. And it means she had $12 million reasons to kill him sooner rather than later. I looked at the policy in my hands. James's signature at the bottom, next to a notary stamp. Carlos, this doesn't make sense. James would never have signed this without telling me. Then either he was coerced, or that's not his signature. I stared at the document. The signature looked right. James's distinctive J, the way the S curved into the rest of Sullivan. But something about it felt wrong. I'm coming to you, I said. Where are you? Carlos gave me an address in Lincoln Park. Don't take your car, take an Uber, pay cash. And Emma? Watch to make sure no one follows you. I hung up and looked around Diane's townhouse. Suddenly, the walls felt thin, the windows too exposed. I folded the policy carefully and put it in my purse. Then I walked to the window and looked outside. A black SUV was parked across the street, tinted windows, engine running. It hadn't been there this morning. I stepped back from the window, my heart pounding. The burner phone rang. Don't go outside, Carlos said. They're watching the house. I'm coming to you. How did you know? Because I just got a call from Whitmore's office. They're filing an emergency motion to have you detained for psychiatric evaluation. They claim you're a danger to yourself and others. When? The hearing is in 2 hours. I sank onto the couch, still holding the insurance policy. Carlos, they're going to lock me up. Not if we move first. Stay inside. Lock the doors. I'll be there in 20 minutes. He hung up. I sat in Diane's living room, watching the black SUV through the curtains. My phone buzzed. My regular phone, not the burner. Text from Dylan. Mom, please turn yourself in. Brooke says you've been making threats. I don't want to see you arrested. Just go to the hospital voluntarily. They can help you. I turned off the phone. Outside, a second SUV pulled up behind the first. 2 men in suits got out. They stood on the sidewalk, looking at Diane's front door. Not moving, not leaving. Just watching. Carlos arrived in an unmarked sedan, not through the front door. He came through Diane's back gate, moving quickly across the yard. I watched from the kitchen window as he checked the alley, then knocked 3 times on the back door. I let him in. "The SUVs?" I asked. "Private security. Whitmore hired them to document your movements. They're hoping you'll do something they can use in court. Leave the house, confront Brooke, anything that looks unstable." He locked the door behind him. "How long have they been there?" "Since this morning. Maybe earlier." Carlos pulled out his phone and made a call. "Yeah, it's me. I need a pickup at the Evanston address. Back alley, 15 minutes. He hung up and turned to me. "We're leaving." "Where are we going?" "Somewhere they can't find you." Not until after the exhumation results come back. He saw the insurance policy on the kitchen table. "Is that it?" I handed it to him. He examined it under the overhead light, holding it at different angles. Then he pulled out his phone and took several photos. "This signature bothers me. It looks like James's handwriting. It looks close. But see here?" He pointed to the capital J. "James always made a little hook at the top. Every document I've seen. Marriage certificate, property deeds, his will. The hook is always there. This J is smooth." I looked closer. He was right. The J was almost perfect, but not quite. "It's a forgery," I said. "Probably. But proving it will require a handwriting expert, and that takes time we don't have." Carlos folded the policy and put it in his jacket. "The good news is that this gives us leverage. If Brooke collected $12 million under a forged policy, that's insurance fraud, federal crime. The insurance company will want to investigate. Will they help us? They'll help themselves. But right now, their interests align with ours." He checked his watch. "We have 12 minutes before my contact arrives. I need you to pack a bag. 1 change of clothes, medications, nothing else." "Carlos, I can't just disappear. Diane doesn't even know." "Diane knows. I called her 20 minutes ago. She's meeting us at the safe location." He looked at me directly. "Emma, if you stay here, they'll have you committed by tonight. Once you're in psychiatric hold, it takes 72 hours minimum to get released. By then, the exhumation results will be out. And if they're not conclusive, the case falls apart. So I'm running." "You're protecting yourself. There's a difference." I went to the guest room and packed 1 pair of jeans, 2 shirts, my medications, the heating pad for my hip. Everything fit in a canvas tote bag Diane kept in the closet. When I came back to the kitchen, Carlos was on his phone again, speaking quietly. "Right. 2 blocks north. Blue sedan. Got it." A car horn beeped twice in the alley. "That's us," Carlos said. We went out the back door. The blue sedan was idling at the curb, exhaust steaming in the cold air. The driver was a woman in her 40s, dark hair pulled back, wearing a police jacket. "Mrs. Sullivan," she said as I got in the back seat. "I'm Detective Sarah Chen, Illinois State Police. Carlos has briefed me on your situation." Carlos got in the passenger seat. "Go." We pulled away from the curb. I looked back through the rear window. The black SUVs were still parked in front of Diane's townhouse. They hadn't seen us leave. "Where are we going?" I asked. "Someplace Brooke's lawyers can't reach you," Detective Chen said. "A safe house in Oak Park. It's registered under a different name. No connection to you or Diane." We drove in silence for 10 minutes. Then Carlos turned around to face me. "Emma, I need to tell you something, and I need you to stay calm." My hands went cold. "What?" "I haven't been completely honest about who I am." He pulled out his wallet and showed me a badge. "My full name is Carlos Mendez. I'm a licensed private investigator, yes, but I also work as a contractor for the Cook County State's Attorney, specifically for cases involving financial exploitation of the elderly." I stared at the badge. "You're a cop." "Not exactly. I'm more like a consultant. The state's attorney brings me in when they suspect elder abuse but don't have enough evidence for a criminal case yet. I gather information, build profiles, document patterns. How long have you known about Brooke?" 8 months. Your sister-in-law Diane contacted me last March. She said her brother seemed off, losing weight, sleeping more, getting confused, and she noticed Brooke was very controlling about his schedule, his food, his medications. Why didn't you tell me? Because I wasn't sure you'd believe me. And I needed to see the dynamic for myself. See if Brooke acted differently when she thought she was being watched. I felt anger rising in my chest. You used me as bait. I used the situation to gather evidence. There's a difference. Carlos's voice was steady. Emma, if I'd told you everything up front, you might have confronted Brooke. And if you'd done that, she would have covered her tracks. We'd have nothing. Detective Chen turned onto the highway. Carlos has been recording Brooke for the past 6 months. Audio, video, everything. We have her on tape discussing the estate, the life insurance, the memorial service. What did she say? Carlos pulled out a small digital recorder and pressed play. Brooke's voice filled the car. Clear. Unmistakable. The old bitch won't last long anyway. She's got arthritis, high blood pressure, probably early dementia. One more push and she'll crack. Another voice. Male. Younger. What kind of push? I don't know. Public humiliation works well. Make her look crazy in front of witnesses. Then we file for competency review. Get control of the estate before she can fight back. What about Dylan? Dylan does what I tell him. He always has. Carlos stopped the recording. That was from 3 weeks ago. Brooke was talking to her personal trainer. Guy named Marcus Webb. He's also her lover. I felt sick. Dylan doesn't know. Dylan knows what Brooke wants him to know, which right now is that you're mentally ill and trying to destroy his marriage. Carlos put the recorder away. We have 17 hours of recordings. Brooke discussing how to manipulate the will, how to forge your husband's signature, how to make James's death look natural. Does she admit to killing him? Not directly. She's careful with her words, but she makes references to helping things along and accelerating the timeline. Combined with the physical evidence, the supplements, the forged insurance policy, the financial motive, it's enough to build a case. Detective Chen pulled off the highway. We're almost there. We drove through Oak Park's tree-lined streets. The houses were older here, Victorian and craftsman style. Well-maintained, but not ostentatious. The kind of neighborhood where people kept to themselves. The safe house was a 2-story bungalow with a small front porch. No cars in the driveway, curtains drawn. Diane was waiting inside. She hugged me the moment I walked through the door. Are you okay? I don't know what I am. The house was furnished but impersonal. Generic couch, generic coffee table, walls painted builder beige. Detective Chen disappeared into the kitchen to make coffee. Carlos spread the insurance policy on the dining room table. This is our strongest piece of evidence. $12 million, forged signature, paid out within 48 hours of James's death. The insurance company will want to cooperate. Have you contacted them? Diane asked. Not yet. I wanted Emma somewhere safe first. I'll make the call tonight. Carlos looked at me. But Emma, I need you to understand something. Even with this evidence, even with the recordings, Brooke might not go to prison. She has expensive lawyers. She has public sympathy. She's young, beautiful, and she'll play the victim. Juries are unpredictable. What about Dylan? I asked. Is he part of this? Carlos hesitated. The recordings suggest he's not. Brooke talks about him like he's a tool she's using, not a partner. But Emma, he's chosen to believe her over you. That's not going to change easily. I thought about my son, the boy I'd raised, the man who'd become a surgeon because he wanted to help people, the husband who couldn't see that his wife was a killer. Can I call him? I asked. Not from your phone. It's too easy to track. Carlos handed me the burner. Use this. But Emma, be careful what you say. If Brooke's listening, anything you tell Dylan will be used against you. I took the phone and went into the bedroom, closed the door, sat on the edge of the bed and dialed Dylan's number. He answered on the first ring. Mom? His voice broke something inside me. Dylan, I need you to listen. Just listen. Don't interrupt. Don't hang up. Just listen. Silence. Then, I'm listening. Your father didn't die of natural causes. He was poisoned. Slowly, over months. Brooke did it. She forged his signature on a $12 million life insurance policy. She's been planning this for at least a year. And she's manipulating you to think I'm crazy so she can control the estate and keep the money. More silence. Dylan, I know you don't want to believe it. I know you love her. But I need you to look at the evidence. I need you to talk to Carlos Mendez. I need you to see what I've seen. Mom, his voice was strained. Mom, Brooke told me you'd say this. She said you'd accuse her of horrible things because you're jealous. Because you can't accept that Dad loved her like a daughter. Dad never loved her like a daughter. He tolerated her because you married her. And Dylan, she's killing you too. Just slower. What? Why are you on medical leave? Why did your doctor tell you to take time off? What reason did Brooke give you? I've been tired. Stressed. Brooke said, Dylan, have you been drinking the protein shakes she makes you? What does that have to do with? Have you? Yes. Every morning. She says they're good for energy. Stop drinking them. Today. Right now. And go to your doctor. Not the one Brooke picked. Your old doctor. Dr. Patterson. Get a full blood panel. Check for toxins. Check for heavy metals. Check for anything unusual. Mom, you sound paranoid. I sound like someone who knows her daughter-in-law is a serial killer. Dylan, 3 other men died after getting involved with Brooke. Harrison Chen in 2020, Robert Kalman in 2019, Dennis Park in 2017, all of them wealthy. All of them dead within 2 years of meeting her. Look them up, look at the pattern, then ask yourself if I'm really the crazy one here. The line went quiet for a long time. Dylan, I have to go. Dylan, please. I said I have to go. He hung up. I sat on the bed, holding the dead phone. Through the door, I could hear Carlos and Diane talking in low voices. Detective Chen's radio crackled with police dispatch. Outside, the sun was setting. The bedroom window faced west, and orange light filled the room. I thought about James, about the morning he died, the way he'd looked at me over his coffee cup, the small smile he'd given me before he'd said, "Best coffee I've had in weeks." Brooke had made that coffee, and I'd let her. Dylan called back at 11 p.m. I was lying in the dark bedroom of the safe house, unable to sleep despite the pain medication. When the burner phone rang, I almost didn't answer. Almost let it go to voicemail. But it was Dylan. I went to Dr. Patterson, he said without preamble. Did the blood work. I sat up, my heart pounding. And? He found elevated levels of yohimbine and synephrine. Said they're stimulants. Asked if I was taking supplements I hadn't disclosed. Dylan's voice was strained, thin. Mom, I don't take supplements. I never have. The only thing I've been drinking is the protein shakes Brooke makes. I closed my eyes. Did you tell Dr. Patterson that? Yes. He wants to report it. He says those levels are high enough to cause cardiac events. He says if I'd kept drinking them. Dylan stopped. Mom, what do I do? You come here, tonight. You don't tell Brooke where you're going. You don't pack a bag. You just get in your car and drive. I can't just leave. Sophia is here. She's asleep upstairs. Bring her. Mom, if I take Sophia and disappear, Brooke will call the police. She'll say I kidnapped my own daughter. Then we call the police first. We show them Dr. Patterson's lab results. We tell them everything. Silence on the line. Then, I need time to think. Dylan, you don't have time. If Brooke realizes you went to a doctor, if she knows you're questioning her, you're in danger. She wouldn't hurt me. I'm her husband. Dad was her meal ticket and she killed him. You're her backup plan. The moment you become a liability, you're next. I heard something in the background. A door closing. Footsteps. I have to go, Dylan whispered. Dylan. The line went dead. I sat in the dark for a long time, holding the silent phone. Carlos knocked on my door at 6:00 a.m. Dylan called you last night, he said. It wasn't a question. How did you know? Because Dylan called his lawyer at 6:45 a.m. and asked what would happen if he filed for divorce. The lawyer called Whitmore to give him a heads up. Whitmore called Detective Chen to threaten obstruction charges if we're harassing his client's husband. Dylan went to his doctor. They found the same stimulants in his blood, the ones Brooke was using on James. Carlos leaned against the doorframe. That's good. That means Dylan is waking up. But it also means we're running out of time. If Brooke realizes Dylan suspects her, she'll accelerate whatever endgame she has planned. What do you mean endgame? I mean she's not stupid. She knows the exhumation is happening today. She knows the state's attorney is building a case. If James's body shows the same toxins we found in Dylan's blood, she goes to prison. Unless what? Unless she has a way to flip the narrative, make herself the victim. Make you the villain. Carlos pulled out his phone and showed me a screenshot. This was posted on Brooke's Instagram 2 hours ago. It was a photo of Brooke in a hospital gown, IV in her arm, looking pale and exhausted. The caption read, "After everything I've been through, false accusations, harassment, threats, I ended up in the ER last night, stress-induced heart palpitations. Doctors say I need to step back from the chaos for my health, but I won't stop fighting for the truth about James. Justice. For James. Family. Betrayal." The post had 47,000 likes. "She's staging a breakdown," I said. "Worse, she's building a defense. When the evidence comes out, she'll claim you and Diane drove her to a mental health crisis. That the accusations were so traumatic she couldn't function. She'll say anything found in James's body was there because you poisoned him and framed her. That's insane. It's reasonable doubt. That's all she needs." I looked at the photo again. Brooke's face was perfectly composed, vulnerable but strong. The lighting was professional. This wasn't a candid hospital shot. This was staged. "What do we do?" I asked. "We make her confess. On record. In a way she can't walk back." Carlos's plan was simple but dangerous. I would reach out to Brooke and Dylan, propose a family dinner. A chance to reconcile, to talk through our differences like adults. Neutral location. Public place. Just the four of us. "She won't come," I said. "She knows it's a trap. She'll come because her ego won't let her stay away. She thinks she's untouchable. She thinks she's smarter than everyone else." Carlos spread a map across the dining room table. "We'll hold it at Café Luxembourg, French restaurant in Lincoln Park. High-end. Public enough that she'll feel safe, private enough that she can talk freely. And you'll be recording. We'll wire the entire table, audio and video. Detective Chen will be at the next table over with a laptop. Everything Brooke says will be transmitted live to the state's attorney's office. What if she doesn't say anything incriminating? Then we push her, we ask questions, we present evidence, we make her defensive. When people get defensive, they make mistakes." Diane was pacing by the window. "Emma, this is dangerous. If Brooke realizes what's happening, if she figures out she's being recorded, then we have nothing," I finished. "We let her walk away with $50 million and my husband's murder goes unpunished." Diane stopped pacing. "Okay, when?" "Tonight, before the exhumation results are released, before Whitmore files any more motions, before Brooke has time to prepare." Carlos looked at me. "Are you ready for this?" I thought about James, about the morning he died, about 43 years of marriage ending in a cup of poisoned coffee. "I'm ready." I called Dylan from a restaurant payphone at noon, didn't want the call traced back to the safe house. He answered on the 4th ring. "Mom, I want to have dinner. You, me, Brooke, and Diane. Tonight at 7. Café Luxembourg. Just to talk. No lawyers, no police, just family." "I don't think that's a good idea." "Dylan, we can't keep going like this. We need to talk face to face. Clear the air." I kept my voice calm, reasonable. "I'm not asking for anything except a conversation. Can you do that for me?" A long pause. Then, "I'll ask Brooke. Tell her I'm ready to apologize. Tell her I was wrong about the accusations. Tell her whatever you need to tell her to get her there. Mom, please. Just this one thing." He sighed. "I'll call you back." 20 minutes later, my phone rang. "Dylan. We'll be there. 7 o'clock. But Mom, if this is some kind of ambush..." "It's not. I promise. It's just dinner." After I hung up, Carlos gave me a small device the size of a button. "This goes under your collar. Don't touch it during dinner. Don't adjust it. Just forget it's there." I pinned it carefully to my shirt, hidden beneath the fabric. What if she searches me? She won't. This is a public restaurant. She'll assume she's safe. At 6:30 p.m., Diane and I drove to Lincoln Park. Carlos and Detective Chen followed in a separate car. The restaurant was elegant but not ostentatious. White tablecloths, soft lighting, a piano player in the corner. We arrived first. The table was in the back corner, exactly as Carlos had requested. Good acoustics, clear sightlines. Detective Chen sat 2 tables away with a laptop, pretending to work. She was wearing business casual and looked like any other professional having a working dinner. At 6:55 p.m., Dylan and Brooke walked in. Brooke looked stunning. Black dress, perfect makeup, hair blown out and glossy. She moved through the restaurant like she owned it, smiling at the host, touching Dylan's arm possessively. When she saw me, her smile didn't waver. "Emma," she said warmly, "thank you for suggesting this. We really do need to talk." She hugged me. I forced myself not to recoil. We sat down. Dylan looked exhausted. His eyes were red-rimmed and he'd lost weight. The stimulants were taking their toll, even though he'd stopped drinking the shakes. "You look tired," I said to him. "I haven't been sleeping well." "Too much stress," Brooke said, putting her hand over his. "We've both been under so much pressure. These false accusations, the investigation, the media attention. It's been a nightmare." Diane stiffened beside me but said nothing. The waiter came. We ordered. Wine for them, water for me. My arthritis medication didn't mix well with alcohol. "So," Brooke said once the waiter left, "you wanted to talk. Let's talk." I looked at Dylan first. "I want to start by saying I'm sorry. Sorry that this situation has become so painful. Sorry that our family is falling apart." "We're not falling apart," Brooke said quickly. "We're just going through a difficult transition. James's death was hard on everyone. It was murder," Diane said flatly. Brooke's smile tightened. "There's no evidence of that. The police have been investigating for weeks. If there was anything suspicious, they would have charged me by now." "The exhumation results come back tomorrow," I said, "and they'll show exactly what the original autopsy showed. Natural causes. Heart attack." James was 74 years old, Emma. These things happen. He was healthy. He exercised. He watched his diet. He was also under stress, financial stress. He'd made some bad investments, lost a lot of money. Brooke leaned forward. "Did you know that? Did you know he'd lost almost $2 million in the 6 months before he died?" I stared at her. "That's not true." "It is true. Check the investment accounts. He was hemorrhaging money, and he was ashamed. He didn't want you to know, didn't want Dylan to know, so he kept it secret." Brooke's voice was gentle, concerned. "Emma, I think the stress of that secret is what killed him. Not me, not poison, just the weight of failure. You're lying. I'm not. I have the account statements. His financial advisor can confirm everything. James was desperate, and desperation does terrible things to a person's heart." Dylan was staring at his water glass. He hadn't said a word. "Dylan," I said, "you've seen the accounts. Is this true?" I don't know. Brooke handles most of the finances now. "Because someone had to," Brooke said. "After James died, everything was chaos. Bills unpaid, accounts frozen. I stepped in to help. That's all I've been doing, Emma. Helping. And you've repaid me by accusing me of murder. You forged the life insurance policy," I said. Brooke's face went very still. "What?" "The $12 million policy. James's signature is forged. The handwriting doesn't match." "That's absurd. James signed that policy in front of a notary. I have the documentation. Then you'll have no problem showing it to the state's attorney. I'll show it to whoever I need to show it to. I have nothing to hide." Brooke took a sip of wine. "But Emma, let me ask you something. Why would I kill James? He loved me. He was going to leave everything to Dylan and me anyway. Why would I risk prison when I was going to inherit eventually regardless?" "Because eventually wasn't fast enough. Because you wanted the money now. Because you have a pattern." "A pattern?" "Harrison Chen, Robert Kallman, Dennis Park, 3 wealthy older men, all dead within 2 years of being photographed with you." For the first time, Brooke's composure cracked, just for a second. Her eyes went sharp. Those men were friends, mentors. Their deaths were tragic, but unrelated. Unrelated? Diane pulled out her phone and showed Brooke a spreadsheet. 3 men, all sudden cardiac events, all within 18 months of meeting you, all leaving money to family members you'd befriended. That's not a pattern. That's a signature. Brooke set down her wine glass carefully. "You know what this is? This is slander. This is harassment. This is 2 bitter old women who can't accept that a younger, more beautiful woman was welcomed into their family. I welcomed you," I said quietly. "I loved you like a daughter. You tolerated me. You never thought I was good enough for Dylan. You thought I was trash, gold digger, social climber. Brooke's voice rose slightly. But you know what? I made Dylan happy. I gave him the life he deserved. A real partner. Not some doormat who spent 40 years ironing shirts and packing lunches. Dylan looked up. Brooke, that's enough. No, it's not enough. These women have been trying to destroy me for months. They've hired investigators. They've poisoned you against me. They've turned this entire situation into a witch hunt. And for what? Money? Control? Because they can't stand the fact that James loved me more than he loved his own wife? The words hit like a slap. James never loved you, I said. He tolerated you. For Dylan's sake. You're wrong. James told me things he never told you. He confided in me. He trusted me. Those last few months, I was the only one he could talk to. The only one who understood him. Brooke leaned across the table. And yes, Emma, I helped him. I made sure he was comfortable. I made sure he didn't suffer. Because that's what love is. Making the hard choices so someone you care about doesn't have to. The restaurant had gone quiet. Diane's eyes were wide. What did you just say? Brooke blinked, realized. I meant I took care of him. Medical care. Comfort. Not, you said you made sure he didn't suffer, Diane pressed. What does that mean? Nothing. It means nothing. I'm just upset. You're twisting my words. Dylan was looking at his wife like he'd never seen her before. Brooke, what did you do? I didn't do anything. I loved your father. I took care of him. That's all. The protein shakes, Dylan said slowly. You made him protein shakes. Every morning. Just like you make mine. Because they're healthy. Because you both needed... Dr. Patterson found stimulants in my blood, levels high enough to cause heart failure. Dylan's voice was shaking. Did you put those in Dad's shakes too? Brooke stood up. I'm not doing this. This is entrapment. This is... Detective Chen stood up at her table, held up her badge. Brooke Sullivan, please sit down. This conversation is being recorded and transmitted to the Cook County State's Attorney. Anything you say is being monitored. Brooke went white. All around us, I realized, were people in plain clothes. More detectives. More recorders. We weren't having a private dinner. We were in the middle of a sting operation. You set me up, Brooke said, looking at me. You lying bitch. You set me up. She didn't kill him, Detective Chen said calmly. You did. Brooke was arrested at the restaurant. Detective Chen read her rights while patrons recorded on their phones. By midnight, the video was everywhere. TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. The same platform Brooke had used to build her brand now documented her downfall. The exhumation results came back Saturday morning. James's tissue samples showed lethal concentrations of yohimbine and synephrine. The medical examiner ruled it homicide by poisoning. The state's attorney filed formal charges: first-degree murder, insurance fraud, forgery, attempted murder of Dylan Sullivan. Brooke's bail was set at $5 million. She couldn't make it. Dylan moved into the safe house with me and Diane on Sunday. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in 3 days. His hands shook when he poured coffee. He couldn't sleep without medication. Dr. Patterson had him on a strict detox protocol: activated charcoal, IV fluids, constant monitoring. I should have seen it, he said on the third morning. We were sitting at the kitchen table, watching sunrise through the window. All the signs were there. The way she controlled everything. The way she isolated Dad from his friends. How she always insisted on making his food. She was good at hiding, I said. That's what predators do. I believed her over you. My own mother. His voice broke. I let her make you think you were crazy. I didn't defend you when she kicked your cane. I didn't help you up off that floor. I reached across the table and took his hand. You were manipulated. She's been doing this for years. You're not the first person she fooled. That doesn't make it okay? No, but it makes it understandable. We sat in silence for a while. Outside, Carlos was trimming hedges, real gardening this time, not surveillance. He'd told me last night he was retiring from investigative work. Said this case had taken too much out of him. What happens now? Dylan asked. Now we rebuild. The estate unlocked 2 weeks later. I walked through the Lake Forest house for the first time in a month. Everything was exactly as I'd left it. James's reading glasses on the side table, his coffee mug in the dishwasher, the newspaper he'd been reading the morning he died still folded on the breakfast table. Dylan came with me. We walked through room by room, neither of us speaking much. In the master bedroom, I found the French press Brooke had used, blue ceramic, sitting clean and empty on the dresser. I picked it up, felt its weight in my hands. Then I threw it in the trash. "Good," Dylan said. We donated most of Brooke's belongings to charity. Her designer clothes, her yoga mats, her supplements and protein powders. The only thing we kept was Sophia's artwork. Crayon drawings of her grandfather, stick figures holding hands. Sophia moved in with us permanently in April. The custody hearing was brief. Brooke's parental rights were terminated. She didn't fight it. Her lawyers advised cooperation in exchange for a reduced sentence. 25 years. Eligible for parole in 18. Sophia was too young to understand everything. We told her that her mother had made very bad choices and needed to go away for a long time, that sometimes adults do things that hurt people, even people they're supposed to love. She asked if I was going to leave too. "Never," I told her. "I'm not going anywhere." Dylan went back to work in June, but he cut his hours. He wanted more time with Sophia, more time to heal, more time to remember who he'd been before Brooke. We had dinner together every Sunday. Sometimes Diane joined us. Sometimes Carlos stopped by with flowers for the garden. The insurance company settled. They paid back the $12 million Brooke had stolen, plus damages. I donated $4 million to the Cook County Elder Abuse Prevention Fund. Put another $2 million in trust for Sophia's education and future. The rest I kept. Not because I needed it, but because James had worked for it. Because it represented 43 years of marriage, of partnership, of building a life together. Because it was mine. One Saturday in August, I took Sophia to the Arboretum. We walked through the gardens, looking at butterflies and flowers. She held my hand, the same hand that had held Dylan's when he was small, that had held James's for 43 years. "Grandma?" Sophia asked. "Are you sad?" "Sometimes, but not right now." "Because you're with me?" "Yes, because I'm with you." We sat on a bench near the rose garden. Sophia climbed into my lap, careful of my hip. The arthritis was better now. Less stress, better medication. Physical therapy twice a week. "Tell me a story about Grandpa," she said. So I did. I told her about the day James and I met, about our wedding in the cathedral, about the house we bought together, the dreams we built. I told her about Dylan as a baby, as a boy, as a young man learning to be a surgeon. I told her the truth, but I told her the good parts. She didn't need to know about the poison, the betrayal, the lies. Not yet, maybe not ever. She just needed to know she was loved. That evening back at the house, I found Dylan in James's study. He was going through the desk drawers, sorting papers, tax returns, investment statements, letters from friends, a lifetime of documentation. "I found this," he said, handing me an envelope. It was addressed to me in James's handwriting, sealed, dated 3 days before he died. My hands shook as I opened it. "Emma, if you're reading this, something has happened to me. I don't know what yet, but I can feel it. Something is wrong. Brooke has been acting strange. Asking questions about the will, about life insurance, about what would happen to you if I died. I've changed the safe combination. The new code is your birthday, 0428. Inside you'll find copies of all our important documents. If anything happens to me, if the circumstances seem suspicious, please show these to the police. I love you. I have always loved you. Whatever happens, remember that. James." I looked at Dylan through tears. He knew. I whispered. He knew something was wrong, but he didn't know how to stop it, didn't know who to trust. Dylan's jaw tightened. If I'd been paying attention, if I'd listened when Aunt Diane said something was off, you can't change the past. None of us can. I folded the letter carefully and put it back in the envelope. Tomorrow, I would give it to Detective Chen for the file. Tonight, I would keep it close. Sophia came downstairs in her pajamas, dragging her stuffed rabbit. "I can't sleep," she said. I opened my arms. She climbed onto my lap, and Dylan sat beside us on the couch. We stayed like that for a long time, 3 generations, holding each other in the house James built. Outside, the sun set over Lake Forest. The gardens Carlos had replanted were blooming. The French press was gone. The poison was gone. Brooke was gone. What remained was this: love, truth, and time. Time to heal. Time to rebuild. Time to teach Sophia that family isn't always blood, and that strength isn't always loud. Sometimes strength is getting up off a cold marble floor. Sometimes it's refusing to sign papers, our lies. Sometimes it's throwing out a coffee pot and starting over. I looked at my son and my granddaughter and felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. Not the peace of having everything I wanted, but the peace of knowing exactly who I was. Emma Sullivan, 64 years old, widow, mother, grandmother, survivor, and finally free.